accordion scale of buccal. What's the rumpus?
Welcome to another episode of What's the Rumpus? My name is Michael Penn, and I'll be your host today, once again. And today I have a fellow here whose name is Gökberk. First of all, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself? Let the audience know who you are and why we're talking to you.
I see. Thank you very much. I am a second-year PhD candidate at the University of Tsukuba. My studies usually focus on the Japanese foreign policies and international migration towards Japan, and the Japanese policies on the how Japanese government attract those international migrants into the country, and currently the Prime Minister Abe's policies on it. Yeah.
I see. And your name seems kind of Turkish. Are you from Turkey or
Yes,
another country?
Yes, I'm from Turkey.
Okay,
Yeah.
From Istanbul or
Ankara.
Ankara? Okay,
Ankara.
I see. Well, thank you for joining us. And so how long have you been in Japan, by the way?
I'm here in this country more than 2 years.
Okay.
I finished my master in this country, and now I'm going on my PhD dissertation.
Okay, we'll start with a rather simple question, a broad one. How appropriate do you find Japanese foreign policy to be in general in the Asian region to what Japan's diplomatic needs are?
Well, in the first step, we need to a little bit state what are the obstacles on the Japanese foreign policies. Currently, Japanese government try to extend their soft power on the other Asian countries because of the aging society and the stabilizing economy and the overtaking the place by the China in the economic sense. Therefore, the Japanese government actually try to extend their influence on the developing countries, especially in the East Asian region and the Southeast Asian region. So all of them actually the reason why the Japanese government needs to extend his policies towards the so-called the third countries. Therefore, because of the rising power of China, in case of economic is rising, and also the military also. So all of them actually influence the Japanese foreign policy as well as her economic attractions. Japanese government currently really struggle after their stabilizing economy because of the aging society effect on it. They really need to make new entrepreneurships in their country because the production line has been changed. After the Industrial Revolution, the production line based on the mass production, and Japan was one of the really successful countries after the Second World War. However, currently Japanese government needs to change these policies because currently, if you look at the top companies on the earth, most of them like IT companies or the software companies. Therefore, the production method also has been changed. So, in order to adapt these changing economical behaviors and the economical line, Japanese government also needs to his policies a little bit change towards the modernizing countries and modernizing system. Therefore, actually, the China, in that sense, their production is really mass, and they are the huge exporter all around the world, which makes the China stronger in the sense of economy as well as the military power. That's the actually not the one-sided danger for Japan. It's both-sided danger.
Well, I certainly agree with you that with China's large population and its potential military strength, and just the size and scope of the country and the talents of the people, it certainly seems to have a future of being a larger power than Japan.
Yes.
Certainly economically and militarily. But one thing where I sometimes disagree with a lot of analysts is, so what? Let's say that China is more powerful than Japan. Let's say it's considerably more powerful than Japan. Why does that necessarily have to be seen as a threat? Why can't it be seen as an opportunity for both countries to prosper?
Well, we have talked about only the economical powers and the economical issues in the both countries. However, on the other hand, one of the main struggling point of the Japan, I guess, the military power and their constitution, the pacifist constitution, which has been made by the alliance after the 1946. So this constitution actually doesn't allow to Japan really rise his military power in the way how do they want. Therefore, Chinese like a rising Chinese danger. It's not only danger for their economy and their business, but also it is the potential danger of their military and their defense. Because currently, even the last year, the North Korea, they have a lot of issues in the Korean Peninsula, but the North Korea also has been threatened to Japan repeatedly. Therefore, China is the one of the biggest supporter of the North Korea in the sense of their business, not maybe militarily, but economically. Therefore, this danger actually is also important for their military relations and actually the sustainable defense of the Japan.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if we're shifting now a little bit towards the military idea, again, I think probably most analysts, especially sort of conventional analysts, will agree with your what you're saying much more than they'll agree with me. But since I do have a minority point of view on this, let me kind of express it and see what your reaction to it is. My feeling is that even on the military side, there isn't really a serious Chinese military threat to Japan now or within the next foreseeable future, particularly because there's a rising India coming up in the south, which China can't, has to continue to deal with. There's always Russia in the north. And most importantly of all, that Japan is and will remain an absolutely crucial trading partner to China. So this idea that China is going to launch some invasion of Japanese territory doesn't stand to reason to me, because China would be damaged by such a war equally as much as they would damage to Japan, if not more. Particularly because their political system may be more fragile than the Japanese political system. So, although there is this talk of Chinese military threat, I don't see any rational motivation for the Chinese to engage in some kind of an attack on Japan.
I might agree to some point that actually the way of fighting each other, the countries, this has been already changed. And the countries actually, they don't prefer the conventional methods, but also their economical and their high technological military powers also really effective on it. However, the last month, Russia and China, they made a huge drill in the Vladivostok, which is the Pacific coast of the Russia, and they have invited the Prime Minister Abe to that drill, and we might see that there was the technological high-tech the productions, but also many of conventional weapons in there. And actually, this invitation was the kind of show-off. I mean, we need to interpret it in this way. After that, if you can follow it on the news, the Prime Minister Abe has attended the different drills of the Japanese self-defense forces. Actually, Japanese self-defense forces is a little bit beyond the self-defense forces as a number of the soldiers. However, still the Constitution, Article 9, is really a big obstacle in front of the Japan. Therefore, they are trying to, in the Abe's government, they are also trying to change this amendment. This article, sorry. Well, if we come back to your question, yes, there is not maybe potential Chinese threat in near future, but no one can actually assume the 20 or 30 years later. Therefore, yes, those are the really strong partnership, but we might say that historical problems, it's never been forgotten by both sides.
Mhm.
Therefore, actually, even though Japan is one of the biggest partner of China, like a trade partner, the rising China and the powerful China, it's not really desirable thing for the Japan and the people of Japan.
So if we were to kind of sum up your opinion, I guess what we've ended up talking about more about in this this particular episode is about the potential rise of China.
Yeah.
Do you see any possibility, on the other hand, that China will not rise so much? So, for example, there's a possibility of an economic crisis or collapse in many countries, and China's economic system is thought to be relatively fragile. Its political system too could easily democratize in some way, or alternatively, China will face the same problem that Japan is, and it's already starting to, which is that the population gets older and more comfortable, and the aging society basically overcomes or this idea of kind of this angry young China sort of syndrome.
If you need the group of the problems of China, in case of economy, they are pretty good in the mass productions. However, their quality of their products usually questioned by the customers and the consumers when they compare those products with the other products which made by Japan or US or European countries. However, it's also has been changing because Chinese production system and the quality of their products are also increasing. Therefore, it was one of the potential danger. There might be like a collapse of their mass productions because of the low quality, but right now, no, we can't say this anymore because the quality is also rising. And the second thing, in case of the population, yes, aging. However, we cannot actually compare this with the Japan because up until very soon, the China has the one-child policy. However, they have recently abolished this one in order to help their population increasement. Well, that's one thing. Another thing, it is really difficult to say that China about the problem of aging. Yes, the population is aging, it's very clear. However, around 7 billion people, they live there. Therefore, the population almost 13 or 14 times of Japan. In that sense, I guess the potential danger in case of aging for both countries, it's not comparable from my point of view.
All right. Well, thank you for joining us for another episode of What's the Rumpus? I think that this is an issue which is a hot button issue for anybody in Asian studies. And I think that's a good thing that my guest and I today had somewhat contrasting views, because that allows people to get the outlines of what the debate is in this issue. So thank you again for joining us. We will be coming up soon with fresh issues of What's the Rumpus? So see y'all.
What can you say? What more can you say? What more can you say? Hey, da 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 ya. What's the rumpus? Hey, da 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 ya. What's the rumpus? Hey, da 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 ya. What's the rumpus? Got a on scale of buko. What's the rumpus? Hey, da 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 ya. What's the rumpus? Hey, da 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 ya. What's the rumpus? Hey, da 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 ya. What's the rumpus? Caught on scale of buko.